I want to pivot back to the old white man thing, because one of the other things we want to talk about is Rupert Murdoch and Dow Jones. We actually haven't really convened on this yet, which I think. I don't know. I can't even remember, actually. But obviously he's offering an awful lot of money relative to the stock price to a family that seems to be, right now, kind of against it. And I say kind of because one has to think that Rupert has a few more dollars in his
What's your
pocket.
number?
It may not be 60. It may be.
What is it? What's the number that it's going to go to?
I would say 63.5. I don't think it has to go that much higher. What's your number?
Yeah, I'd say something north of 60. They're now. It seems to me right now they're negotiating. That's what they want. They have a $60 offer on the table. Well, they would be fools to take a $60 offer when that's the first one on the table. Mm-hmm. Now they can go. They're trying. They want to get as much money as they possibly can get. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm convinced what they want is as much money as they can get.
So that tends to be what this comes to. I mean, blah, blah, blah.
Which means it's going to be sold,
blah, blah,
which
blah.
means that we're in agreement, that Dow Jones...
it's just a matter of time. So let's pivot to, there's a great deal of hand-wringing in journalistic circles, which, as I've written about, and I think maybe we did discuss, I have just zero tolerance for. The management of Dow Jones has been generally atrocious for the past 20 years. But more to that, the idea that Rupert Murdoch comes in and everything becomes the Fox News channel or the New York Post, I think is dare I say, slightly unfair to Rupert Murdoch. Not that the world really needs to worry about being fair to someone who runs media as we know it and has trillions of dollars in the bank. Well, however, perhaps you disagree.
Well, I disagree slightly with that description. The Wall Street Journal is a great paper. I mean, it's a really, really good paper. Given the spectrum of papers in the world, the Wall Street Journal is
top three, top two. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. The management of Dow Jones is it's unspeakable and inexplicable. So you have this convergence, this fundamental contradiction. The Wall Street Journal cannot go on in the manner that it has been going on,
and yet it must go on.
This
is the thing.
Here's the paper. So is the Wall Street Journal, this good paper, is it somehow contingent on bad management? And what happens when Rupert comes in? And Rupert is, you can look, I mean, he's not just a tabloid editor.
Exactly. The Australian, the Times of London, the Village Voice in the 80s, which everyone seems to forget, which I don't think went out for Reagan, when it came to...
Well, New York Magazine.
New York Magazine.
Absolutely. But look at the Times of London, because, I mean, I think that's the most direct parallel here. Mm-hmm. The Times of London is not the Times of London that it was when Rupert took this over.
But when did Rupert took it over 20-something years ago? The New York Times today is not what it was.
Well, it's a lot closer.
I
mean, you can look the Times in London was the establishment paper at that time. It was the paper that set all of the standards.
Okay, and the Wall Street Journal does that for the business elite, and it has to keep doing it. That is the singular brand equity of it. What you expect from the New York Post, even the Times of London. I mean,
but
how much wiggle room is there for him to come in and be all this?
Well, that's a problem. That brand equity in the journal may exactly be the problem.
I don't think it's the problem. I think the way it's been run is a problem. I think the way the company... I mean, look, it's not a high-margin proposition, which, by the way, it's good that Rupert's doing it because he doesn't care the way
take it the other way. It is what Rupert is going to do is something different. So I think it's foolish to say he's going to take over the Wall Street Journal and it's going to remain the Wall Street Journal as we know it. It is going to be something... if not dramatically different, substantially different.
Somehow different.
So that's the question there that's bothering everybody downtown. And it's not really Rupert. It's really what we do may not be a viable proposition anymore. So
it is
going to change.
Evolution.
If the Bancrofts keep it, if they don't sell, the paper will functionally stay the same for a fair while longer. Mm-hmm. which in our business, certainly in the newspaper business, if you say to people, okay, well, you can do what you do for another 3 years, 4 years, everybody goes, oh, I'll take it. So that's the kind of thing, and I really don't think that the issue is Murdoch per se, or it is Murdoch just as a guy who's going to change this in fairly substantial ways.
Well, is this like so we're talking about Murdoch here as like the accelerated agent of change. They've been protected very long. It's truly remarkable how lousy a business the Journal has been. But I think we talked about the New York Times a while ago. And
have we ever talked about the New York Times?
I'm pretty sure we've talked about the New York Times. And I know this is our first installment, but we may as well already be self-referential as much as possible. And, the New York Times, if you look at it historically, is completely a triumph of product over management. Management has generally been lousy. You have a family member up top who is sort of involved, and we always disagree as to the degree to which they're involved. And there's a guy underneath it who does a lot of the operating, and if they're lucky, it's like Walter Mattson or Russ Lewis. They kind of know what they're doing. This has always been the problem at these places. And Rupert, for all of his manifold faults, and I'm glad I don't work there, but he kind of knows what he's doing.
But my original point, these products may be contingent upon bad management. And I think that may well be true.
That there's waste built into the journalistic process that, blah, blah, like...
Absolutely. It also demands for both the Times and the Journal. There are certain kinds of conceits built into the creation of the product. Certain sort of snobberies, which are not in a business way necessarily efficient. Certain kinds of maintaining values whose market worth has significantly declined.
Well, then the argument here, which I generally agree with, is that the creation of quality content is an expensive proposition. The creation of lousy. The Spider-Man 3 cost what, $300 million? There's an interesting example of
a newspaper that everybody agrees is a good newspaper, is maintained at quality, and is sort of at this moment everybody's dream buyer, which is the Washington Post.
Which is a company that's largely kept afloat by an education segment, by a non-print segment. This is a very wise thing, says the guy who works for a company that has a lot of educational and data holdings.
Right. I don't ultimately know if it's a wise thing for newspapers, but it's a good business that they're in that seems to support the central brand by minimizing the central brand, which is why everybody wants to be bought by the Post. And the Bancrofts indicated when about 3 years ago the New York Times made motions to buy the Journal or expressions of interest. And the Bancrofts said in a piece that the New Yorker did, they'd never sell to the New York Times, but they might sell to the Washington Post.
Well, of course. He's sort of the gentle buyer, the kind of gentle thing. But the thing is, and we're actually running out of time, but the only paradigm for newspaper ownership, a newspaper company that works, is something where like the actual profits come from not the newspaper. I maintain, and again, I know we disagree on this,
but there's
got to be a way for them to figure out how to do this better than they're doing.
Even then, in the case of the Washington Post, or the case of any company where you have the profits coming not from the newspaper, then still the question is going to be, especially in a public company, okay, then why do we do the newspaper if it is ultimately drawing resources from our core business?
And if you're a company like EW Scripps, which doesn't have this kind of blood knot family, thing going on anymore, then you gradually become a cable company. You buy other things. If you're the Washington Post or the New York Times, you actually have the belief. Maybe
now
it's naive.
Let's go just quickly, because I think it is the ultimate denouement of this story. If the Wall Street Journal is sold. Mm-hmm. What kind of pressure mounts on the New York Times?
Here we go again. Here's the difference between the New York Times and the Dow Jones.
I'll tell you what. I got a better idea.
There is one family voting in one block for the New York Times. nothing is going to happen without a great deal of internal pressure at the Sulzbergers, to do something.
I think, as you know, I think that this is absolutely, especially if the journal goes, the pressure becomes considerable.
Right.
But my proposal
waiting for Time Warner to break up, as you bet me 2 years ago, and I'm waiting for the dinner that you owe me.
We take this up at our next opportunity.
That sounds good. Thank you very much.